wary hunter sniffs the air in a wild Welsh valley. Polecats were once common throughout Britain, but by 1915 only a handful remained, confined to the woods and dingles of Wales. So what led to the sudden decline of this shy, nocturnal creature? Polecats are opportunists and often feed on roadside carrion. Sadly, today, most people's only glimpse of a polecat is a bundle of fur by the side of the road, especially in autumn, when young polecats themselves become road casualties. Polecats belong to the weasel family and are among Britain's oldest native mammals. They have always been persecuted by man. Yet it's a different story for a close relation, the domesticated ferret. The ferret is a polecat in a white coat, bred by man from wild polecats for over 1,000 years to flush rabbits from their burrows. The ferret is a docile version of the wild polecat, a characteristic encouraged by its breeders. Pure ferrets are albino, with pink eyes. This animal has darker eyes and fur and is actually a cross between a wild polecat and domesticated ferret, a hybrid known as a polecat ferret. So what was it that turned man against the polecat? Though shy and elusive, they're not afraid of human habitations and were once notorious killers of poultry. The French name, poule chat, means chicken cat, and it's this reputation as a killer of poultry that has done the polecat most harm. In the past, when poultry was less securely protected, this was a problem for farmers. Today, however, polecats pose little threat to livestock. During the 19th century, pheasant shooting became popular across the country. Polecats found the newly introduced birds easy game, and as a result, they soon themselves fell victim to the gamekeepers' gin traps. Many were also trapped for their fur, known as fitch fur, and numbers began to fall rapidly. After World War I, the gamekeeper's gibbet became a less common sight, but this was nearly too late for the polecat. Only a few clung on in remote parts of mid-Wales, and when deadly myxomatosis decimated the rabbit population in the 1950s, polecats were forced to seek new prey, plentiful in the Welsh River valleys and marshes. Polecats are solitary creatures which tend to stay within the bounds of their own hunting territories. The only time they actively seek out another of their kind is during the mating season. Female polecats come into heat towards the start of April. Most polecats are able to breed once they're a year old. This male senses that a female in breeding condition has crossed his territory. He begins to follow her musky trail of scent markings through the woods. Warily, because at this time of year he must also be ready to fend off other males. One by one, the scent messages lure him on. He sees well at night, but mainly he's led by the nose. She has the pale markings of a polecat-ferret hybrid. However, the pair will still be able to mate successfully together. The rough wooing that follows is typical of polecat courtship and causes the female to ovulate before mating. The male drags her about by the scruff of the neck for quite some time, inflicting wounds which will show later as scar tissue, a sure sign that a female has been mated. Mating can take over an hour. Finally, the male leaves the female to recover from the encounter. It will be 6 weeks before this female gives birth in midsummer. Her mate will play no part in the rearing of their offspring. During the next few weeks, females spend most of their time hunting in preparation for nesting. In summer, grey herons stalk the shallow streams. Though the river contains abundant fish, the polecat's hunting skills lead it to concentrate on more terrestrial prey. Polecats establish territories in a variety of habitats, from farmland to sand dunes and marshes to river valleys. This female lives on the riverbank. She's found a suitable place to raise her young in a fallen log. Polecats frequently nest in rabbit burrows after they've eaten the occupants. In every nest, there are preparations to be made. The female carefully packs the hollow with dead leaves and bracken to form a snug nest. One night in June, she gives birth to 7 kits. Polecats can produce litters of 10, but in such large numbers, it's unlikely that all would survive. At first, the young are blind and covered with silky white hair. Their main objective is to drink as much milk as possible. It's now clear why the female puts on weight earlier in the spring. There's no time now to go hunting. During the kit's first few weeks of life, she suckles the litter almost continuously. After 6 weeks, their white coat has been covered by darker guard hairs and their eyes are open. By now, they're able to eat flesh. The distinctive mask begins to appear at this stage. Managing a handful of kits like this is a full-time business. Already they're eager to explore their surroundings, but at this stage it's dangerous for them to venture outside. Their mother always blocks up the entrance with leaves before she goes hunting to keep predators such as foxes and buzzards at bay. Now that the rabbit population has recovered from myxomatosis, rabbits are once again a prime target for polecats, making up 70% of their diet in many areas. Though most kills are made underground, the rabbits are vulnerable to polecats when they're feeding on the surface soon after dawn. Polecats have poor vision, but a highly developed sense of smell. She attacks from behind, sinking her jaws into the rabbit's neck to deliver a swift, deadly bite. Then she drags the carcass home for the waiting kits. They, meanwhile, hungry and impatient, have pushed their protective curtain of leaves aside, alerted by the smell of supper. She will allow them to eat their fill before she satisfies her own hunger. Only when they have had enough does she settle down to feed undisturbed. Polecats breed just once a year. The female tends her youngsters' needs until they become independent at 3 months old. Due to a gradual decline in trapping during the 20th century, the polecat population in Britain is now beginning to expand. It has recolonized the whole of Wales and is returning to the English border counties. In the early 1990s, polecats returned to parts of Warwickshire and Staffordshire, where they hadn't been sighted for at least 100 years. But the British polecat still faces problems. Many die each year on our roads, and others are carelessly poisoned with baits intended to kill rodents. In addition, wild polecats readily mate with feral ferrets, producing large numbers of hybrid polecat ferrets, such as this one. Little is known about the long-range movements of polecats, but males and females regularly patrol their territories of about 100 hectares. They produce a fetid smell from stink glands to warn off trespassers. Other polecats ignore these pungent warnings at their peril. This unsuspecting youngster has crossed into another's territory. After a brief skirmish, the young intruder is forced to give up its kill to the resident, darker-colored polecat ferret. By now, the young polecats are 12 weeks old and are keen to explore. Their masked faces are alert to every drifting scent. They have to learn what is worth eating and what to avoid. Following the shiny track of a slug brings a choice reward for an inquisitive youngster. It seems that slugs and snails are what little polecats are made of. But there's still much to learn. These are valuable weeks, and they spend a great deal of time play fighting, refining the hunting skills they will need for larger prey. The classic neck bite, though instinctive, has to be practiced before it's perfect. As the young polecats approach their first winter, they'll need every ounce of skill for the solitary life ahead. Their mother stops feeding them. From now on, they're on their own. Now is the cruelest time for the polecat. Small wonder that it's tempted to move close to the comforts of man and take its chance along with others. It's in these cold winter months that many inexperienced polecats die. Unlike weasels and stoats, they do not forage for mice or voles when the ground is frozen hard. Instead, many seek shelter in barns and outhouses, where they hunt for rats and mice. It's now that most sightings of polecats are made. Often there's a bonus: wood mice. The mice have moved in to steal the farmer's grain. Now they'll become a meal for the polecat. Yet some farmers still regard polecats as vermin, even though they keep down rats and mice. The polecat starts to explore its new winter quarters. Unfortunately, it hasn't got the barn all to itself. Another hunter appears in the loft. The farmer's ferret, perhaps set to catch mice, or on an unofficial sortie from its cage. This is a battle which might easily turn into a love match. This partnership, though capable of producing viable offspring, reduces the numbers of native, purebred polecats. So what about the future of the wild polecat? They're now a protected species, and their numbers are increasing throughout Wales and the English Midlands. Every autumn, a new generation disperses to set up territories of its own. During the winter, many will starve. Others will fall victim to fox, buzzard, or man. Yet every year, the polecat's frontiers spread outwards from Wales, regaining ground it gave up long ago. Until perhaps in time, the polecat's musky odour will again become familiar throughout the British countryside.
Our Dance on 4 season continues next with a specially commissioned piece by the choreographer and performer Bill Forsyth. He said this will be his last appearance on film, so you'd better keep watching.